everybody. I'm Betty Rosen, a teaching artist for the Arts Council for Long Beach. And I'm here with Frankie Greco.
Hello.
And we are here to talk about the phase 2 of the art kits, sponsored by the Arts Council for Long Beach and generously funded by our funders above, and most especially by the Port of Long Beach. So welcome to Black History Month, and welcome to the Arts Council for Long Beach and I Am Design and Passport. So we're in Los Angeles today on Zoom. And as all of you know, March 2020, all of our lives changed, and COVID shut down most of the teaching artists in the classrooms. And that was when we launched phase 1 to try and get art kits in the hands of our community. Here we did. So we're fortunate enough now to be launching phase 2. And I was so happy that Frankie Greco accepted our invitation to be the artist in residence for phase 2. And to celebrate Black History Month. And I'm attracted to Frankie's work for many reasons. Number 1, the music connection. Number 2, the spontaneous vibe of your paintings. And they feel like jazz, both in the composition and the colors. So I'm gonna ask Frankie a few questions about his work and process, and I'm glad y'all can join us. What I wanted to know initially, Frankie, is that for our theme in phase 1, we had gratitude, and you wanted to expand it to courage and love. So I wanted you to talk about why you chose those themes.
Well, first of all, I'm going to thank you, Betty, for reaching out and getting me on board. I want to thank Arts Council Long Beach for always your participation, and thank you, Port of Long Beach, for supporting this. So to answer your question of gratitude, courage, and love, I feel like those two, courage and love, are essential to the 3. I think they go together. And we used in a conversation earlier, Betty, we used the metaphor example of a tripod, how the 3 need each other to stand up, to rise up. You know, Martin Luther King did in his community. He had the courage to stand up for things that mattered, understanding, you know, all the consequences. But he also had the love to love himself and to love everyone. And at the end, I think love, you know, will persevere. So, and to have that self-worth, you know, all those things matter, and to be be gracious, have gratitude for all of them. So I just think those 3 just go together so well. And that's the reason why I chose the 2 other themes.
Yeah, it seems like one without the other only gets us so far. And I got kind of emo when you were talking about love, because sometimes we have gratitude and courage, but without that component and like community love support, it's hard to step out into the world as an artist, or as any kind of creator, or even just a human being walking down the street.
Yes. You have to have courage, you know, to do those things.
Yeah.
So I think they just, all of them go together so well.
Yeah, I agree. So on top of those themes, the lesson that we designed for the art kits that we are announcing and will hand out to everybody as much as we can. The Port has financed 1,000 of them. So the lessons take whoever wants to make the art kits through a process of thinking about these themes, thinking about music, thinking about color and painting with watercolors, learning a little bit about mosaics, and then making your own mosaic out of watercolor paintings. So I'll show one example. that I made, which is a microphone, which we all need to broadcast our thoughts or sing or hear each other. So the other question I have for you has to do with your music. You know, we both have a common passion for music, and it's an integral part of our work and our lives. And we decided that we couldn't address Black History Month without honoring all this infinite list and more. So has what you've listened to during COVID changed? Is your playlist different? Or just tell us about your musical influences now and how it affects your painting.
Well, yeah, music always affects my work. You know, I use that as definitely a tool, and to get my compositions down and to get, inspired to work. I've also always used the correlation of music and social change, and how the music and these artists that are creating this music echo what society is saying or doing or how they're living. And so that being said, like, as far as like during the pandemic, during COVID-19, the differences or the similarities of music that I've used are pretty much the same. I attempt to, explore, into all different kinds of artists, but it seems so relevant to me during this pandemic to just go back to and revisit some of the classics that I feel like some of these artists just nailed it right on the head, like back in the day. I mean, these works are timeless. So definitely Marvin Gaye, his What's Going On album. I mean, it's timeless. I mean, like, you can listen to it now and it's like, wow, he was like clairvoyant or something, like, what's going on, and Grandmaster Flash, Furious 5, Don't Push Me, because I'm close to the edge. I mean, that's definitely like one of those songs, just in general. And these guys are just, they're creatives, they're artists, and they figured it out. Stevie Wonder, A Tribe Called Quest, Gangstar with their ear to the street and just, their street knowledge, and they know about the codes and they explain it, so everyone can understand what's going on out there. You got J. Cole, who's, he's not an old rapper, he's not a new rapper, but he is to me like a flashback to some of these other MCs. So he's like almost like a segue from a lot of these, from when hip hop originally started to where it is now. And I also think of him as like an MC's MC, like, he's definitely really respected. J Dilla, the late J Dilla with his beats, and then I even explored a lot of the ladies from the past that were so innovative, like Queen Latifah, who was just, didn't care. She just was, she was just going to say it how it is. She's going to give it to you straight. And
right.
And she definitely crossed a lot of barriers in that regard. And what a tremendous talent. You have Salt-N-Pepa, who again, during a very male predominant, industry, they shined, and they crossed over in a good way where they were able to get their message out there, and they were able to use their own voice, and they weren't, they weren't puppets, for somebody else. So those are some of the people I was just very innovative. So there's some of the people I've been listening to during this pandemic, among others, but those ones stand out. Gil Scott-Heron, always, for just his genius. He's the first, what do you say, rapper, first poet. I don't know, but he just really told it like it was. And you created that narrative, that you can really understand what's going on. So yeah, those are some of the artists I've been listening to.
To go back to your tools, you say the music's always been a part of your art making, painting process. Can you take us through a little bit like that? So you walk into your workspace, are you music playing or are you painting? Tell us a little bit about that.
Depending on, music's always playing. So to answer the question, yes. First step is either, depending on, how loud I'm going to be, or, I might put my headphones on, or I'll just turn on the, stereo, or, whatever.
Okay.
And, but I definitely have some headphones on. I pick an artist and I go from there. I always use the music as a tool to lay down the composition. So yeah, so I use it as a tool to, as the music's playing, I'm laying down the foundation. I always use the analogy of like a jazz, artist, using their improvisation over a chord. Like that's how I'm trying to create this language with the music, and I'm putting it down on canvas. And then the rest of it's just solving it. It's just like a puzzle.
Okay.
So I just try to solve it.
Yeah. Which leads me to the next question we've talked a lot about before and want to talk to other artists and community about is the problem solving, is the puzzle, is the creative process in terms of like we acknowledge that fear and chaos are part of the process, and every artist and every human on the planet comes up against it. And so as much as we can share our tools for greeting those elements, pushing through them, helping each other support them, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, so I have several things that I do when I, creative block or whatever have you happens. The first thing I do, one of the things I do is I try to work on different projects at the same time. Like, for example, I'm not just working on one painting, I'm working on something else also. So I think as creatives, we tend to get involved in one piece. I use the analogy of like a relationship, like a boyfriend or girlfriend. We get super involved. And then sometimes we just have to step away from it. And then everyone can see it, but you need to step away. And then, you spend that time away from it and things start to clear up and you start to see it a little bit clearer. So definitely I say that, work on more than one project at a time. I also say, don't expect every piece to be like the next Mark Bradford. You got, you're going to have some failures. You're going to have some success works. And again, with the first example of working on more than one piece, sometimes you'll put something down and hey, it might be the next Mark Bradford. You never know, but you have to look at it later and you won't see it, and some you do. So it kind of goes, both ways. Another thing that I'll do is, I think about, my style and my brand, and I always consider those type of things. It's not something, it is something that it's created from hard work. So again, from the second example, like you're going to have your successes, you're going to have your failures, your hard work. And so that's the thing, the success, the failures, everything included, it's going to create this, identity, this brand, this style of who you are as an artist. So just consider those things, because at the end of the day, you got to work, so you just keep on creating, keep on doing stuff. And so another thing I do is, it's always good, like now I'm having a conversation with another artist. And so those type of things are always nice because you realize that, you might have differences, but moreover, I always feel like everyone's got the same issues, as creatives, like, oh, wow, same thing, or you'll talk to some people that are even, more established in yourself or, have got a little bit more success in yourself or even been doing it longer and they have the same thing. So it's always nice to hear those or how their process or how they deal with it. Listen to some music, if you can get out and walk, I know it's a pandemic now, exercise, those things always help, just get away from things. And then, always good to look at the masters or even contemporary artists, if you can get out and look at the museum. I remember when I first was in art school and even before that, I got the notion that, hey, this guy did it, so maybe I can do it too, so it kind of gives you ideas, and if you're doing something close to what they're doing, you're probably doing something right. So those are just some examples that I would say that when you get stuck, just those are the things that I would do to try to work on, getting out of it. But just keep on creating. That's the main thing,
Yes. It's funny. I have a friend in Nashville. Her name's Erica Wallum Nichols. She was my first studio mate. And she always told me, we need time to make the bad art too, like the transition pieces, and I identified that with like marinating vegetables or meat or something. It's like, you can't put it in there for 10 minutes and then take it out and go, is it ready? Is it ready? Sometimes things take time, and they're your transition pieces to something else. And I know you and I talked about talent. You were saying that talent, sure, it may be there, but the hard work is how you develop it.
Right.
That we have to keep on keeping on, keep working.
Yeah, no, I believe that. I mean, there's some people that are just more, I mean, they're just born with this amazing talent, and some people are born with this talent, they don't recognize it, and others do. But at the end of the day, I think you just have to work, and then eventually you'll get to where you want to be.
Well, and I also think with the contemporary conversations now, that what is talent and what is successful and what is defined as popular or worthy of looking at is changing. And I'm really happy about that. Public art is more recognized now, and it doesn't have to be an artwork by a historically European white male master to be valuable.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Celebrated. So that's an exciting time for us, I think.
No, it is. Although some of that European art, white art, male art may be great, there's plenty of voices out there. And so, it's nice now that a lot of these voices are being heard. They're getting represented. They're getting the representation that they, not yet. I mean, we're far from where it should be, but, I'm sure, people are making art everywhere, and all the times, and every time. So it is nice now that we're starting to get a little closer, to that.
And that's what the art kits are for. I mean, my personal philosophy is that twofold, that we all have creativity inside us, and that when we do make art, we know from science that it boosts our immune system, lowers our stress levels, opens us up to inner wisdom, or whatever you want to call your spiritual life or atheist life, but just you feel more connected to yourself and to the world. And so that's why we really wanted to make sure that our community gets these kits, because we can't gather together, and we want people within their families, within their pods safely, to make this work together and share it with us, so we can have a virtual exhibit of everybody's contributions.
Yeah, it'd be so awesome.
It would.
To get everybody to send their works in, and whether or not these kits, somebody receives this kit, they may not have any art supplies, or whether or not it opens their eyes to, this creativity that they might not have even thought of, because they're trying to, deal with other things, issues, from day-to-day basis, whatever it may be. I think this is a great opportunity for everyone just to open up their creative selves and just, make some work,
I'm so excited to see what the community shares with us. That's my favorite part of being a teaching artist. Like, okay, what are they going to do? Because you can give the exact same materials to 100 people and you'll get 100 different creations. So I'm excited to see what that's all about.
Yes.
Okay. Anything else you want to share with us or ask questions?
Well, Betty, yeah. Let me ask you a couple of questions. You've asked me a few. So, so let's talk about your creative process. And, off of that, how does music play into your creative process, and what kind of work do you do? What do you make?
Okay. Well, I've been a mosaic artist for the past 20 years. mostly self-taught, and some workshops at different craft schools, and then a workshop with Sherri Warner Hunter in Tennessee, where I was living at the time. And then everything changed. So that was fantastic. And I experimented a year in that studio in Nashville with all kinds of materials: candy, linoleum, found objects, tile, glass, all of it. And I still like to work with varied materials. I took a year off to kind of heal up. I had been working in the entertainment business for 20 years and was burnt out. So I wanted a year where I could just make my own thing and be alone. And then I missed the camaraderie of team building and working on a project with a lot of people. And so then I started to do community projects again. It's a very accessible art form. You can put it down or you can work all night, you know? So, and in community situations, if I can get one person to put one tesserae or one piece of tile down, that's enough. That's success. And sometimes just by putting that one tile down, people get interested. Some get hooked. And then they're like, oh, let me do a few more. And then they stay all afternoon. So I like that. And then I used to be a music publisher, so that's part of my interest in music, but I've been a fan all my life. I mean, I've looked to music lyrics to teach me so many things. I mean, I learned about history from The Clash, like what Sandinistas were. I didn't know until I heard their song, or Bakelite from Elvis Costello, because I didn't know what that was. So I look it up. Or Pavlov from the Stones. Like, who's Pavlov? Oh, okay. Yeah. You know, pre-Google. Like,
right.
So, and I just, yeah. And in 1987, I went cross country and went to the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Festival, and it changed my life. I went to the gospel tent and couldn't leave. I just adore that music. I adored the feeling, and being Jewish, you know, when you go to temple, it doesn't sound like that. It sounds more whiny. It doesn't sound like, you know, jubilant and soulful and just rhythmic and, you know, danceable. I adore all that music. So, yeah, I used to, and I'm going to start again. I used to actually list the AURL elements of the work when I made it. Like I was listening to AM radio or NPR or you know, Stevie Wonder's back catalog as part of the materials, just as much as ceramic tile, grout, and glue, you know, because like you, they're just as important. Yeah.
You know, it's funny, we were talking about that, and actually that's an aspect of my work that I don't do as much as I should. You know, I do consider the songs and what I'm listening to, and I will list that sometimes, but I think that might be a more regular thing than I do. You know, after talking with you, it's so important to the work, so that should be listed.
Yeah, let's start a trend.
No, it's very, very important. So
yeah.
But and to the point too of like learning from music, I can relate to that right away, because even, you know, just all the music you hear like, you know, like I remember when you said, you know, Santa Ana Winds or something. I remember hearing that from a Steely Dan song, and like, okay, what is that? Okay, yeah. I get it now. You know, that's what it is. You know, so yeah, absolutely. Exactly. I can relate.
And as far as the creative process, I'm like you, I'm working on many things at once. And especially during COVID, I started to work on watercolor painting because I needed immediate gratification, and mosaics take a long time. I'm not very fast. I have friends like Dawn Mendelsohn, she just cranks stuff out all the time, but I'm slow. So I started doing more drawings and more watercolors, so I could actually feel like something was finished in a day, you know, which is how these started, you know. we wanted to be able to send people kits, but it was too cumbersome and expensive to send tile and glue and grout and all of that. But watercolors are been a fascinating medium to use for mosaics now. I really like it.
No, absolutely. And as a painter myself, you know, I paint often with oil paints, and you know, that's a process in itself. You know, whether I'm trying to get layers or whatever I'm trying to do, you know, with oil paint, often it takes, you gotta give it time. You know, you can't just, you know, depending on, again, what you're trying to create, overnight. And so, you know, with different mediums, you can produce a lot faster and learn from it also. So, you know, I can totally relate with that also. Which leads me to my next question, and kind of how you were talking about how you came to the watercolor and phase 2. What else led you, or phase 1? What else led you to phase 1? How did you come up with and how did you come up with the gratitude theme for phase 1?
Well, phase 1 mostly came about, quite frankly, because I was furious and so sad. I was just pissed off because what was happening is, you know, the news, everyone was saying, well, we'll just all go digital. And a lot of our community doesn't have access or technology or hardware or a combination of things to reach them. And I couldn't reach my students. I was teaching 3rd graders, and even the day-to-day teachers where I was artist in the classroom, they couldn't reach them either. So it was like, I was pissed off. It's like, well, that's not good enough for me. You know, we need to find a way to reach them. So NASCO was our distributor, and I had met them at professional development conferences in California and talked to them about originally growing the Ion Design program, because I wanted to be national, and I dropped off a bunch of workshops at Gavin Newsom's desk in Sacramento when we were up there. But I thought, well, maybe there's a program we can design and then figure out a way to get it to the students when they were picking up lunches, or, you know, they have park giveaways in the parks where people pick up diapers or other necessities. And that seemed to work. You know, that worked for a while, and we did some safe handoffs at Edison and elementary school. But the very first phase 1 came from 2 things. It came from my birthday Facebook donation, what do you call it? Fundraiser. Just wanting people I got my friends and family and colleagues to donate $1,500 to start with. And then the Arts Council came in with more resources for us. And then, which was quite exciting. I'd never stepped out to do something like that, but you know, justified anger will get you places. And the gratitude comes from an old project of mine. I have done gratitude mosaic tiles for years that I've sent to people who have done work that I'm grateful for, and was hoping that someday, years down the line, they could all bring them back and we could make some big mosaic wall or something with. So
very cool.
Yeah, and I was very grateful to still be working. You know, the messages I was getting was like, well, in the very beginning, we don't know, could be 2 weeks in a furlough. So, you know, as an artist, to be able to continue to be working and also expanding these programs outside of the schools to the community, that's a dream of mine. So I'm thrilled.
I'm super grateful, you know, to be working. I mean, you know, pandemic, you know, like my day job, I work in grocery industry, and I'm, you know, I've always been, like I always say, I've been fighting and kicking, like, I'm not going to do this forever. I'm not going to do this forever. But I tell you, during the pandemic was a time when I really felt grateful to be in an industry that actually, you know, is not going anywhere, you know, and it's an essential business. So it's nice to being able to, and then, you know, with that, you know, being able to create and plenty of material to work with during the pandemic to, you know, be inspired. So, all those things, I'm very grateful. You made a point about how you're infuriated because, a lot of these kids, a lot of families, people don't have access to digital. And I mean, as if, the arts aren't cut already, and that's just, I feel like some people don't get it in that regard, or they just don't care, where, that's not important, math, science, English, those are important, but the arts, they're not. And I disagree. I think they're just as important. And furthermore, there's something that, it helps to be in studio. It helps to be present, or at least, have that one-on-one, communication. So I'm actually happy that you got infuriated, because this is something. No, it actually is something that needs to be said. I just think it's like the elephant in the room sometimes, and no one says anything besides us artists. We're always complaining about, they're cutting our, department, but I think more people need to hear it,
Well, and I think two things about that. If I can get on my soapbox, I mean, number one, during
Yes.
hard times, people look to artists for answers.
Right.
For hard times and celebrations, the poets, that fabulous poet at the inauguration.
Oh man, yeah.
She was just so inspiring. And also, if anyone is willing to dissect what the art making creative process is, it's problem solving, it's
right.
reading, it's flexibility, it's all the time. It's problem solving from one moment to the next. Okay, the image in my head looks like a red balloon. What do I need to put that red balloon into tile on paper? I need to know how to draw. Okay, I have it this big. What if I want it 6 feet? What kind of math skills do I need to grid that up, to project it on a wall?
Oh, absolutely.
It's a whole other thing. And then if I'm going to make a mosaic of a 6-foot red balloon and put it outside on a wall, I need to know about adhesives, and I need to know about temperature, and I need to know what's going to make it last and safe, and it's huge. So maybe I need some friends or proteges or assistants to help me do this. How do I connect in my community? How do I reach out? And then how do I do that safely in COVID and blah, 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 blah. So if that isn't teaching people real life problem solving, adaptability skills, and if we don't see that during COVID, that's the most necessary quality for survival.
Yes.
This is the best time to advocate for the arts.
Yes. No, I agree. And you nailed it. I mean, they ask the artists for answers during times like this. It's, when they least expect it, they go to the artists, and like you said, also with problem solving. I mean, I spoke to somebody a while ago. I forget which artist it was I was talking to, but, they asked him what makes an artist different. And, he just basically said, we have a more creative way of solving a problem. We just figure it out. And I think that's a very good answer. It's like I said, even with my work, it's, the foundation's there. I just have to figure it out at the end. And I don't always figure it out, but it's a puzzle, and I'm just trying to solve it. So.
Right. And we're here to help.
Right.
Figure it out. And then to bring it back to the science, I've been studying this creative journal expressive arts, which taps into more of the right side of the brain. And the more you use that right side of your brain through non-dominant handwork, or through listening to instrumental music, or to doing any kind of art making, the more you open yourself up to the greater good, the inner wisdom, the flow of life, for lack of better words. So the more we do that, the more it's easier to reposition and pivot. And because that becomes a practice in itself, and I think we can be inspirational and useful to people who are used to doing the same thing over and over and over again all the time, and now have been thrown out into the atmosphere and need support, need guidance, need new skills, need visioning, need whatever, that even making these little art kits can help everybody just start that process to feel more connected to themselves, feel better.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. You know, if nothing else, just maybe open up that door, that avenue that they may not have even realized it was there. So.
Exactly. Well, I think we covered it.
Good. Nice talking to you, Betty. This has been a positive conversation, and back to our theme of gratitude, courage, and love. Like, that's what it's all about.
Yes, and everybody, please stay tuned at artslb.org. We'll be announcing places that will be dropping off art kits, and we will be so looking forward to seeing what you make during Black History Month, and we want you to be part of our virtual exhibition.
Yes.
Okay, thanks so much, Frankie. It was really a pleasure. Check out Frankie's work at Frostamon, everybody.
Thank you.
Okay, take care.
Bye.
Bye.